Experience a membership that backs your business journey with American Express Business Platinum. When you pay with membership rewards points for all or part of an eligible flight booked with a qualifying airline through Amex Travel, you can get 35% of those points back, up to 1 million points back per calendar year. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Haway the podcast. It's Gav and you join us for our Sunday supplement episode. It's the day after Sunderland took on Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium, or is it Dean Court? I've heard it called both names in recent days. Whatever it's called these days, we went there and we got a point on the road, largely thanks to Jared Gillette, who's probably going to come into the conversation quite a bit today. And we've also got Leeds coming up, so we thought, why not get together, see if we're feeling any less angry about the way some of those calls went yesterday, and we'll maybe see if we're going into the Leeds game with a clearer head. First off, I'm joined by Martin. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate, and I think I need to begin by issuing an apology. You know, as regular listeners will know, I live in Australia, and on behalf of my adopted country, I feel as if I need to issue a formal apology for the behaviour and misconduct and terrible, inept performance of Mr. Gillette, who certainly wasn't the best referee a man could get yesterday, was he?
Well, I'm not taking your apology. It's your fault. Your fault. Also with us is our guest today. It's James Copley from the Sunderland Echo. Hello, mate.
Hello, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, are you calmed down at all since yesterday?
Yeah, at the Echo, we try not to dig referees out too much because it's a very hard job, but he just made it so difficult not to talk about him. I think that's the problem. Yesterday, it was unavoidable. It was incompetence on a different level, and sadly as well, I think with this particular referee, it's not the first time we've seen it. Obviously, a couple of years ago against Middlesbrough sending Dan Neil off for dissent. I saw a few sweary and hurty words being directed his way yesterday, and there was no action taken. So I think it comes down to that consistency word that we're all searching for. But yeah, shambles really.
I mean, did you see that account on Twitter, which basically only exists to back up referees and
Ref watch
argue
support.
Yeah, and even they said, "Ooh," I don't think it was a penalty. I think it was a penalty. But yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't really know where to start other than with that. To be honest, after the game yesterday, I actually took myself off for a walk. I was like, I need to get out the house, and my head was pounding. I was red. I was fuming by the end of the game. I was just so disappointed that despite going there and giving a really good account of ourselves, Martin, yeah, you could see on the balance of play, maybe a draw was a fair result. But then that's that's also considering that we didn't get the penalty. They didn't have a man sent off. They were allowed a goal that clearly touches the arm of the goal scorer. So I don't think on the balance of play we did deserve a point, actually. I was fuming after the game. I had to just get out of the house, take myself away, try and concentrate on something else. And I mean, I wrote this on our Twitter account as well after the game, but it's just aggravating that after such a battling performance from the team, that were coming away and were talking about VAR and referees again, because it was literally only the other day we were doing this with another game. And I know when me and the lads do the pubcast after matches, it become a bit of a running joke that when we all get together in the pub after the match, that we just whinge about refs. And I'm like, I'm conscious. I'm thinking, are we whinging too much about referees? It can't all be about referees, but it just feels like we've been on the bad end of so many stupid decisions like this for as long as I can think now. It was really frustrating, that one yesterday.
Oh, look, it really was. And I think there's a few bits to this podcast today, right? And I think if we concentrate too much on the referee, which I think we need to, right? So we need to talk about the referee and VAR as a wider thing, because, no matter how inept the referee is on the field, VAR's there to get him out of trouble, right? And it didn't do that yesterday. So there's a few bits to it. This shouldn't distract from Sunderland's performance, which I think if you're coming back off those 3 defeats that we had, and I think everyone went nuts, didn't they, about the Fulham game. And then you look at it in the bigger picture, in 3 defeats in 3, I think people kind of forgot that one was against Arsenal, who were, going to be one of the top 2 teams, if not the top team this season. One was against Liverpool, last season's champions. And then Fulham, a very good Premier League side, an established Premier League side. That was a poor performance, wasn't it, the Fulham game? The other 2, I think I said after the Arsenal game, I thought that was one of our best Actually, I think I said it was the best away performance
You did?
of the season, because I thought we were so good that game. So I think it's really important this refereeing display doesn't detract from the fact that we went there and we looked bloody good. We looked back to what we'd done earlier in the season. We looked really solid, organised, and we played well and created chances, and we could have very easily won that game. So I think it's really important that doesn't get lost, because that was huge for me yesterday. And, I would have been so pissed off if the referees' decisions had meant that we didn't get anything yesterday, because that would have been 4-4, and it creates a whole other world of problems, doesn't it? So you put that to one side. The referee was for both sides. He wasn't just terrible against us. I thought for both sides he got things wrong. And he was just
I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet from a Bournemouth fan saying, "Can we have a petition to never get Jared Gillette as a ref again?"
Yeah,
that was from a Bournemouth fan. So
unbelievable. And as James said at the start, we had, it was very clear on TV, wasn't it? It had Tavernier, or Tavernier, whatever he's called, telling the referee basically to fuck off. And he was, "Oh, come here, don't you say that again." And he's like, "You sent Dan Neil off for going, that's not a free kick," or something 2 or 3 years ago. It was just so incompetent. And, this is what the frustrate. And I'm getting kind of really wound up again now, and I had to calm down. But this is what I find so frustrating about this whole bloody thing. You can have a referee who has a crap game, right? And he had a crap game yesterday, but VAR's there to get him out of trouble. And it did not do it. So you had a chap called James Bell on VAR. So I've spent my day looking who on earth this fellow on VAR was. And he's never refereed the Premier League
where
game.
he lives and who his family are, and
I will find you and I'll get you. He's never refereed a Premier League game. Apparently he's been trained. He's refereed Championship games and League One games and stuff. But apparently he's been trained as a VAR referee. Now, I tell you what, if that's the standard of VAR referees, we are in heaps of trouble. It was Mike Dean, wasn't it, on Soccer Saturday? Said, we might as well pack up and go home. And that was the level of incompetence that we were talking about yesterday.
What do you think it is, James, with VAR? Because, as Martin says, it's there to make sure that ultimately decisions are made that are correct, right, to the letter of the law. Yet I haven't seen a single person. I haven't seen it, even mags and people who would generally just disagree with Sunderland fans for the crack. I haven't seen anybody who thinks that wasn't a penalty, because Enzo Lafay is lining up a shot. He's got no idea who's behind him, and he gets shoved. And literally anyone with a set of eyes can see that's a penalty, apart from the people who are paid to make these decisions. That, to me, that's the most worrying thing, is that even when something is so ridiculously obvious, you get, they could have spent 10 minutes looking at it if they wanted to make sure they reached the correct decision. They still didn't reach the correct decision. That I think that's really worrying. It's a precedent, because, well, I say it's a precedent, but there's no consistency with anything. So, a completely different set of VAR officials would have gave that. And
Yeah.
it is tough, isn't it, with VAR, because you want it to be good. And look, we've been on the receiving end of some good VAR decisions. I mean, we can't get away from the one in the playoff final against Sheffield United, which dug us out, and then we ended up getting promoted. So it's not always bad, but it just feels like, certainly in this country, in my opinion, I think VAR is seriously inconsistent. And when I watch big tournaments and things where VAR's implemented by overseas officials, it always seems to be a lot quicker and more direct, and decisions seem to get made which make sense. But in the UK, I feel like we're in a very bad place when it comes to VAR.
Well, they've bottled it, haven't they? Let's face it, they've bottled it because it comes with not even 3 minutes on the clock yet. In my opinion, they've looked at that and they've thought, we can't give a penalty early on in the game, which is an absolutely ludicrous position to take. What makes it even worse, as you say, it's a stonewaller, but Jared Gillett is in the perfect position to judge that. There's no mitigation, in a sense that his shoulder goes straight into the back of him as he's just about to take his shot. Enzo Lefebvre goes flying, not because he's dived, but because of the momentum of the Bournemouth player. VAR then checks it. How Mr. Bell hasn't reversed that, because it's a clear and obvious error. That's exactly what VAR was brought in for. So in my opinion, they've bottled it owing to the early nature of the game, which isn't an acceptable excuse. It just feels like at the moment, VAR in Britain has backed itself into a corner where it's absolutely terrified to affect a game, but that's what it's there for. It is there to get the right decision, and it was too scared of impacting a football match to get to the correct decision, which tells me that the mentality amongst these referees, who do have a very hard job, we should point that out, is all over the place. Martin points towards an inexperienced video assistant referee, and I think that's a pertinent point. But I think to not give a penalty because you're scared about impacting a game when it's clearly the correct call, and then to have VAR check it again, it's absolutely shambolic, and I think it's it's sort of illuminating really into the minds of these people, and just how scared they are to make some of these decisions. And I think as well, it's become a little bit of a safety blanket, hasn't it, VAR for referees? And I think had VAR not been there, it wouldn't surprise me if Jared Gillett would have blown up for that. But I think he's not given it, and he's thought, well, if it is a penalty, VAR will come back to it and will award it, and then I'm sort of off the hook in a way. But then for VAR to not bring it back when it's so clear and obvious, I'm perplexed. And I think I haven't seen one pundit yet say that it wasn't a penalty. I mean, Joe Cole, Peter Crouch on TNT, Mike Dean on Sky Sports. I listened to Ashley Williams and Alan Shearer on Match of the Day. You know, as you say, Ref Watch Support, which is vocally in favour of referees at all times on social media. Nobody anywhere has said that wasn't a penalty. Even Bournemouth fans would have to admit so. It's crazy that a penalty is not given because it's just 2 or 3 minutes into the game. I mean, does that mean we've just got all license to go around kicking people because it doesn't matter, you won't get a red in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the game because the officials don't want to spoil the contest or whatever, you know. And what's most infuriating is about 2 minutes later, he gives a foul on Trey Hume for less of a push.
Yeah.
Outside the area. It is absolutely baffling. And I think, as I say, we're all searching for that consistency word. It doesn't appear to be coming anytime soon. And I think it's been a really, really poor couple of weeks for the VAR officials. Obviously, going back to the Liverpool game, we had the Brobby stuff as well, didn't we? The explanation after the Fulham game for the penalty was just really, really hard to stomach, and it feels like they're making these rules or laws, whatever you want to call them, up as they go along. Yeah, it's frustrating. I think VAR is needed, and I think it should be implemented correctly. As you say, on the continent, it seems to be a lot better. I have no doubt that in the World Cup, it'll probably be a lot better, but we just seem to have a real problem in this country with it.
It's really interesting, isn't it? You had Jermaine Defoe and Michael Owen to the crew of people who said it should have been a penalty. They were on the coverage I was watching. But it creates this really interesting thing for the referees, doesn't it? And, you know, as James has said, you know, maybe the referee's scared of making that call early on and thinks, well, VAR will get me out of trouble if I've made it incorrectly. But that works both ways, doesn't it? If he gives a penalty and it's not a penalty, VAR gets him out of trouble as well. So for some reason, there's a hesitancy on, or there was certainly yesterday, there was a hesitancy to give those decisions. But, you say that VAR's a bit reluctant to get involved in things, but then you watch the Burnley-Brentford game yesterday,
Oh, God.
and they could not wait to disallow Burnley's goals. They were searching and searching and searching for a reason to disallow those 2 goals. And, you're talking centimetres, millimetres of offside. You're talking
I don't think that was
potentially.
offside.
Well, I don't think it was
personally, Martin.
offside.
No.
I don't think it was. And, you go and, you talk about the making up things as go along. Was it the Fulham-Liverpool game where Wirtz scored and then said, they allowed it and it looked offside. Oh, there's a 5 centimetre tolerance. I tell you what, absolute bollocks. Like, they make it up as they go along. The one against Fulham where Robbie's given the penalty away, I've never heard that before, that, he's not actually offside if he's getting fouled. So, it's always the first offence that's given. Always. That's always how it has been. And they're just making things up as they go along. And I just cannot get away with it. I completely agree that VAR is needed to correct clear and obvious decisions that have been, or clear and obvious mistakes, rather. The one that always springs to my mind is that Thierry Henry handball against Ireland.
Yeah.
That's a clear foul infringement. That shouldn't be allowed.
They'd probably find a way to allow that goal as well, though, wouldn't they? Let's be honest.
It depends who's bloody sitting there, doesn't it? But, I just thought yesterday that penalty shout came so early, he probably hadn't sat down and turned his computer on. That was the only reason I could see why he hasn't given it.
Did you see the Paddy Power video, by the way, where it was like footage from within the VAR room for that penalty call, and it was like obviously a piss take, but they were saying like, "Oh, we just didn't see it because one of the lads in the office had the F1 on." But it's like it's become an absolute joke. I mean, you talk about you talk about the way finding ways to not give decisions. Are we being gaslit, or was there no push for that Tyler Adams tackle on Xhaka?
Yeah, there was no push at all.
No,
Even the commentator was it was the forgive us, I don't know her name. It was a female commentator on TNT who was saying, there was they're saying there was a push on Adams which could have impacted upon the decision and the tackle. He's not even. There's no push. If anything, there's a slight pull maybe from Diarra, but to me there was nothing, and that doesn't impact your ability to lunge in. That's got nothing to do with anything.
And he's still got time to pull out as well. I think that's what got missed. He's still got time to hold. I know it all happens at very fast speed, and we're slowing it down. But in my opinion, when I watched that, I thought he's got time to alter the position of his foot, to alter his impact, alter his momentum, and it didn't happen.
Like, if you look at the penalty push on Lefebvre, and apparently that's normal. What was it classed as? Normal.
Normal contact, wasn't it?
Normal contact, right? So that's normal contact. The Adams one is a push in the back, where our players just basically ran alongside him. And even if he pushed him in the back, the front of your body goes forward, the top of your body goes forward, your weight goes forward. So it doesn't make your studs go up and your foot fly forward. The top half of your body goes forward. So it's just like, it's, again, absolute nonsense. And it doesn't make sense whichever way you look at it.
I think what's ridiculous about the foul on Lefebvre as well is they've probably used that term normal contact because it's a shoulder. But what difference does it make if it's a shoulder in the square of the back or a hand? You still go in the same direction. It's beggars belief, really.
Well, that's it. And like I say, the one on Xhaka, we've already talked about it a little bit there, but it was a horrendous tackle. Horrendous. I thought that was like season over. The way I did. And I mean, he didn't. He looked uncomfortable for the rest of the game, then ended up going off, didn't he? So whatever it was bad enough to. I suspect he probably would have come off early anyways because we play Leeds on Tuesday. But he didn't look comfortable, and I honestly thought he'd done something. See, I don't think that was him rolling around trying to get the lad sent off. I genuinely think he was really hurt, and it put yourself into the situation of the official there. Firstly, Gillette or Gilles or whatever the fuck he's called, right? You put yourself into his situation there, right? So he's seen a tackle, probably very fast, in real time. The guy's lunged in, Xhaka's rolled around. There probably is a part of you that thinks, I probably need to let this go to the VAR officials and let them look at it because, it could have been, Shaka play acting a little bit. It could have been, couldn't it? We see it so many times in games where whereas in the Championship, the referee's got a split second decision to make. Premier League, you have that benefit of VAR. So I can totally understand why in that moment he maybe didn't think it was a red because he's got time to correct his decision. They then pore over that for 5 minutes. 5 minutes looking at that decision. And they're slowing it down, speeding it up, slowing it down, speeding it up. Did they send him to the monitor to look at it?
No.
Give him the opportunity to see the decision again.
Bournemouth subbed him because they knew he'd gotten away with one. It was like a yellow and a half card, wasn't it? It was almost like a pre-season game where it's like, right, he's getting booked, but he should have been sent off, so just sub him. It was a bit like that.
Yeah, like Ronaldo the other month when he'd done the same thing just before half time, didn't he?
Yeah, against West Ham. Yeah. It's a really bad challenge, whatever way you look at it. And I know, as I said before, we're slowing these things down. We're looking at different angles. We're looking all the time. I didn't really see a massive push. I think he's got enough time to adjust the way he enters that tackle. And Xhaka's not one to stay down over nothing, is he? And he was absolutely fuming, raging. And he's just come back. I'm not sure if it's the same ankle, but he's just come back from an ankle injury as well that I thought it was really, really reckless. I'm not saying the lad set out to do him because he's probably trying to go for the ball, but I think you see them given. I've seen them given in the Premier League this season, red cards, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, well, for less.
Yeah, for less, absolutely.
You look at the Romero, was it Romero at Spurs got sent off?
Yeah.
Man U.
100%.
That wasn't as bad a tackle as that one yesterday.
And still a red, by the way. Like Romero's was a red, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, we'll quickly shoot for a break. We'll come back to whinge about VAR a little bit more, I think. We'll see you in a bit.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, your new foundation. Use PDF spaces to generate a presentation. Grab your docs, your permits, your moves. AI levels up your pitch, gets it in a groove. Choose a template with your timeless cool. Come on now, let's flex those tools. Draft, design, deliver, make it sing. AI builds the deck so you can build that thing. Do that with Acrobat.
Learn more at adobe.com/do-that-with-acrobat.
Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccer rules.
If data management is slowing down your business, you need the Intuit ERP. If one entity is here, and one here, and one here, and one here, you need the Intuit ERP. If scaling your business feels like starting over, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite is the AI-native ERP solution that consolidates, migrates, and automates, all in one place. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
And welcome back to Haway the podcast. And yes, we're going to talk about VAR a little bit more. VAR, Jared Gillett, whatever the fuck he's called. And that has to precede everything now. Jared Gillett, or whatever the fuck he's called. And some other mad decisions that he made during the game. The next big one's probably their goal. But very quickly, and I haven't really seen many people talk about this, probably because there was just a pile of shit decisions in this game. But what were you thinking when he booked Sadiki for booting the ball away a split second after he blew his whistle?
That was no, and he only booked him because the Bournemouth players told him to.
Yeah.
Like the Bournemouth players were all about him.
That was him in a nutshell for me, James. That was like a referee who makes things about himself. Like he didn't need to book Sadiki there. Sadiki kicks the ball as he's blowing the whistle. He's not doing it to be a dick. And it was just like, oh well, here's me throwing me weight around. There's a card for you. You know what I mean? That was almost as frustrating as like had there not been so many big moments in this game. I think I would have been more fuming with that because I couldn't believe it. If it had been 2 or 3 seconds after he'd blown his whistle, fair enough. He kicks the ball. Honestly, if you watch it back again, he kicks the ball. It must be a microsecond after he blows the whistle.
And the other thing with that one, is I wasn't in a situation where they were going to take a quick free kick.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
going to be lined up for a shot. So it's not as if even if it was a second later or 2 seconds later, it's not a position where he's going to delay the restart because they're going to line up, get the wall right and all that sort of stuff. It was just mental, man.
To be honest, the referee was that bad. I'd actually forgotten about that one, but it was a howler because he's kicking the ball away for a reason, because Bournemouth were on the attack and he wants to clear it. It wasn't as if he's lobbed it into Rose, as Martin says, to stop a quick free kick or to get some sort of advantage. He was doing his job as a defender in there, trying to defend Sunderland's box, but very egotistical. I thought the referee was at times. As I say, I don't like to dig them out too much because it is a tough job, but I think we've seen enough consistently over a period of time with this particular referee to have some pretty strong opinions on him. And as well, when you book a midfielder like Siddiqui, he has to change his game, unfortunately, and that does not benefit Sunderland in the slightest, because he is a player that rats around and he runs and he gets his foot in, and he has to sort of dial that back a couple of numbers towards the end of the game, which was a real shame. So I think even that small decision definitely affected Sunderland on the day.
And then the other one, Gav, sorry, in the interest of balance, was the Roofs one, where Roofs got caught out by the Bournemouth player, didn't he? When he's outside the box, he tried to go around him, and we got the free kick, and that was never a foul.
Yeah,
he was just making mistakes left, right, and centre.
And then the other big one would be their goal, really, which I've seen some people sit on the fence with this one, but I think if it hits your arm, it doesn't hit his head, does it? It hits his arm. It hits the shoulder, rolls down the arm. Clearly, when they slowed it down, you see the ball roll down his arm. You can't give that. Like, surely, I don't care what. If we'd have scored that, I would have been like, we've getting away with murder there. Like, again, I can understand, Martin, why the ref wouldn't give that, because it's obviously happens very quick. It's a great ball in, by the way, really good ball in, and I can understand he's probably quite far away from the situation, so he's not going to see the ball rolling down Evanilson's arm. Like, when I watch it in real time, it looks like a header. But again, the VAR officials have the benefit of watching that back over and over and over. And I would love to sit one of them in front of us and go, you tell me how when a ball rolls down someone's arm and ends up in the back of the net, that stands. Tell us, explain to me, because in my mind, handball's handball. If it hits your arm below your shoulder, which it did, it hit your arm and you've directed the ball into the goal. It is, by definition, handball. And I would love to sit one of them in front of me and explain why, even with the benefit of 3-4 minutes of looking at it, they decided to give the goal.
It was strange, wasn't it? Because there seems to be an interpretation of handball where it's the shirt line, isn't it? So up here, above your shirt, t-shirt line, isn't classed as handball, even though it used to be. So you've got this area here. I know I'm obviously demonstrating on my own arm on an audio platform, but this top of your shoulder bit is.
But you can be offside. You can be offside with that part of your body, though, which can impact on the goal decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite the fact you can. It's mad.
But I think the biggest issue with that one was that there wasn't a brilliant camera angle where it showed absolutely definitively, I don't think, that it hit below the t-shirt line. And I think that was probably the reason where that wasn't necessarily, in some person's interpretation, clear and obvious to disallow it. I'm with you. If we'd scored that, I'd be going, happily accept it, but we've got away with one there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Bournemouth fans will think the same. But again, it just topped off a catalogue of errors, didn't it, from the referee on the field and VAR.
I don't think that one's as much of a howler. I can see why you would disallow it, but I think it is sort of tough to judge within the context of the current rules, which are really confusing anyway. I think the problem is,
if there's any doubt, should the what's the directive there? If you're like, if you're not 100% on a decision, should you not be disallowing it?
You go with you on field, don't you?
Yeah, you go. This is it. There's so much red tape and there's so many directives and so many different things. We don't know where we're at currently. But I think that decision in the context of this particular game, we've got every right to be questioning it because there's a potential red card. We should have had a penalty. There's the Noah Sadiqi yellow. Bournemouth can feel aggrieved at some things as well. I mean, I don't know if we're going to come to it, but the 14 minutes or 13 minutes of injury time that we played,
is still not
so in the context of in the context of all of that, Sunderland haven't gotten anything really from the officials in this game. When, okay, granted, maybe the handball's a little bit marginal, but the red card should have been a red card. The penalty should have been a penalty, and we shouldn't have played 40 minutes of added time, which made it feel like the referee was trying to give the game to Bournemouth because they were on the attack at the time. In the context of all those incidents, it was an excellent Sunderland performance against 12 men to get a point, really. It's just outstanding.
Yeah, if you go back to that Burnley-Brentford game, like the amount of time they took to disallow Ashley Barnes' goal in the last minute for a relatively similar handball. It was slightly low, but it was still on his arm, and it touched his arm for the same amount of time. It didn't actually directly go in off his arm. He controlled it with his sort of chest and the side of his arm. The amount of time they took to get that decision made, and it didn't seem to take that long with this one. They looked at it a couple of times. No, it's all right. Go on. And it was just like, again, I just think who knows what was going on. The added time is, I've never seen that ratio of added time. If that was added on,
believe it. I could not believe it.
If that was added on at the end of a 45 minutes, you'd be having 25 minutes held up. In terms of the time, please.
The initial 8 minutes I was struggling with anyway. I thought maybe it should have been. I thought maybe there were a fair few stoppages, to be honest, but I thought maybe six or 7 minutes, but 8 minutes, and then to play another 6 pretty much on top of that. I could not believe what I was watching, because within those 8 minutes there weren't a lot of stoppages. There wasn't a lot of time wasting. I think if you were to sit there with a stopwatch, I don't know, maybe you could justify playing another minute on top of the allotted added time. But to go up to, 130, 114 minutes, it was just absolutely crackers. It was. I've never seen anything like that. I couldn't believe it.
You're right with what you said there. It felt like he was trying to give the game to Bournemouth. It was like, he has an extra 2 minutes. Oh, well, Bournemouth have got a corner. And then you're thinking, well, they've took the corner now. Surely this is it. And he just kept going and going. And I had to sit back and think, where has he found those extra minutes from? Like, I was like, have I missed something? Is it me? Like, it just compounded the entire display, to be honest, from him. By the way, we haven't really talked at all about the game, but that was basically what I said at the start of this, was that we wouldn't, because it did cloud the entire day, really. And I mean, those extra minutes at the end, like I say, compounded the performance from the ref and the officials. But like, Sunderland actually played pretty well in this game, and that's the annoying thing, is that yet again we're sitting here yonking on about refs and officiating. And I'm like you, James. To be fair, when you said like the Echo's stance generally is not to blame refs. I used to be a referee, so I know what it's like to be out there. It's not nice at times. Yeah. I did that when I was really young, actually, and you get exposed to some pretty shitty abuse. So I get it. I get why it's a difficult job, but there's part of me coming away from this thinking, when we were in the Championship, when a referee's the only man out there to make that decision, and these linesmen, you can talk to them in the headset, but I sometimes, is that not just the better approach? Like, make a decision, that's your decision, that's final. Because that game Martin's talking about, the Burnley game, both them goals get given in the Championship. There's no way that either of them would have been disallowed. Yeah. It's almost like VAR's a thief of joy. It's like,
well, it is.
It is a bit.
It's interesting. Like, there's a survey that the Football Supporters Federation have out at the minute. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it, but it's all about how VAR impacts your joy and experience as a supporter. Because now you don't have that, absolute certainty that when a goal's scored and the referee signalled it's there, it's a goal. So you temper celebrations and you go, oh shit, are they going to find something here? Or, so until you actually give that second award on occasion, you don't experience that joy that, we all had growing up when there wasn't any VAR. So there's a load of questions. Actually, I would encourage people to go and dig it out and have an input into it in terms of how it's ran and how it should be ran, because I actually think there's a place for it to correct really obvious mistakes, right? And in this survey, there's a proposition about, do you have 2 challenges per game as a captain? Do you have 2 challenges per game? Say, I'd like that review, please. Otherwise, VAR doesn't come into it. Otherwise, the referee's on the pitch to do his job, but a captain's got a couple of reviews. And to my mind, that's a far better way of operating it. If you think something untoward's gone on, if the referee's missed something, if there is a clear and obvious mistake that's going to impact the direction of the game, you can go, can we just check that, please? Rather than this situation at the minute where you've got the only consistency is inconsistency, because from one game to the next, within the same game, it's being applied differently and being used differently. And until they actually standardize how it's used and implemented, we're going to keep on having these conversations. And look, sometimes we'll benefit from them, right? And other times we won't. But in the last few weeks, it's really gone against us, and it's impacted how, and if you think about it, it's impacted everything, right? Because that Liverpool game, Robbie gets a penalty, we go on to win or draw that. How does that affect the mood going into Fulham? So there's all sorts of repercussions that getting the correct decisions has. And if you can't get the correct decisions, if you're a trained referee and you've got a bloody video screen, then you simply shouldn't be doing that job.
I think it's philosophical, this as well, the VAR debate, because you do need it for stuff like the Henry handball against the Republic of Ireland when the stakes are high, very clear and obvious errors. But I think what VAR does is it indicates that we're chasing perfection and every call is going to be correct. It's just impossible. It is completely impossible and unrealistic. There will be human error all over the place. And I'm not trying to give referees a pass, because I think generally the standard is poor in this country. But once you implement VAR, it does say and suggest that we have to get everything right now. And that's never, ever going to happen. So I think it does need change. And I think it does need to be there for big decisions. I think I like the challenge idea, to be honest. I think that would add a little bit of a layer of drama, wouldn't it, if you had Xhaka or Lebreeze putting a challenge in, or, just thinking off the top of my head, it would add to the pressure of a manager, wouldn't it, if they use their 2 VAR challenges early and then there's some other incident later on in the game that they can't challenge and that results in them losing, he gets the sack or something. I think all of that stuff is worth exploring, but in its current guise, I think it's just not working in this country. And I think it does take away, because you're constantly sort of looking over your shoulder when a goal's scored. What's going to happen here? It does feel like we've lost a little bit of that pure release of passion in football. And before VAR, that could easily be taken away by an offside flag, or the referee might blow up anyway. But it feels like every goal now you're sort of thinking, God, is this going to be pulled back? Which is a shame, because I think football is about that pure explosive joy, isn't it? That's what makes it great, above other sports, in my opinion.
But it's interesting, isn't it, as well, how it impacts the ability and the quality of the referee. You say the standards of refereeing are poor in the country. I completely agree with you. But what impact does VAR have on that? We saw it, didn't we, when Premier League referees came down to the Championship, and you could say they weren't used to refereeing without VAR, because they were reluctant to give certain decisions, because they think, I'll let that go, and then if that's a penalty, VAR will come back to it. And it's almost like referees are babysitters on the field to a large extent. Keep everybody in order, keep the thing moving on. Anything big, your man upstairs is going to get it. And that takes away any ounce of responsibility or confidence from a referee, because the best referees, whether they get decisions right or wrong, are confident in their decisions, are confident in the calls. Because they've got the ability to make those calls. We've taken away the ability for referees to make categorical calls, and that has been detrimental to the standards of refereeing.
And it was almost easy at the stomach, wasn't it, when you had a Graham Poole or a Jeff Winter or a Howard Webb, and that was the decision and it was final. But now it feels like the referee's authority has been undermined a little bit, doesn't it? And that's a shame. And there's so many different things we can talk about as well. Sending them to the screen in front of the whole stadium, is that the right thing? It's a lot of pressure on one person. Psychologically, what does that entail? Because they're not, if they're being sent to the monitor, then they're likely to overturn a decision. It's very rare that they actually go, no, I was actually right, because by definition, if you're being sent to the monitor, it suggests that something's wrong. When sometimes it isn't, or it is marginal, and I think the very fact that we're having this conversation, 40 minutes into a podcast, we haven't really spoken about Sunderland's performance, as Gav mentioned. It's a crying shame. But I do think as well, like, it seems to be, I'm not saying there's not problems with VAR all over the world, because there probably is, and people in different countries would tell me otherwise. But when I watch European football, Champions League, Europa League, when I watch European Championships, World Cups, it does appear to be implemented a lot better. So I'm not sure what we're doing wrong in this country, but we're doing something seriously wrong.
It's not going anywhere, is it? That's the point.
No.
So, like, you've got to stomach it, but I suppose this has been a thing with refs even before VAR was a thing in this country and across the world, is that it doesn't feel as like there's any accountability. Like, one of the lads made a point on the on the reaction pod that really anybody watching that who's assessing the officials should be putting them in a lower league, like, as a punishment for how badly they did their job. But you just know he's going to be refereeing in the Premier League again next week.
And we've got
no accountability.
We've gone to him to get him to this country to referee our games. Unfortunately, that's the mad thing.
But that's the unfortunate bit of it. But then, we would have said last season, why the hell should we get a bloody Premier League referee who's had a poor game come down and referee our game? Championship clubs, League One clubs shouldn't have to have that. They should, we had Craig Pawson come down when we played Blackburn at Ewood Park, because he'd been crap the weekend before in the Premier League, and he didn't give us a blatant penalty for Jack Clark being fouled in the box, and they went down the other end and scored. And it's just like, you can't impose that, and it's not fair, I don't think, to relegate them down to a different division.
They seem to really, really struggle when they don't have that sort of safety blanket in terms of the mentality. What they are being told, how they are being told to think in the Premier League, is obviously going to be completely different to the Championship. It's almost like refereeing a sort of a different sport in a way, because if you're thinking, if you've got a safety blanket of VAR and you're thinking, right, I can have another look at that, or they're going to tell me something. When you take that away in a football game, a highly pressurized environment in the Championship, when you've got 40,000 people in the stadium, it's one of football's many problems, I think. And we talk about the consistency of decisions, but VAR isn't even consistent across different rounds of the FA Cup or the EFL pyramid, which again, it makes no sense. With all the, I know we're going off on a massive tangent here, and I know it's in use in the final, but with all the money on the line in the Championship in terms of getting to the Premier League, all of these clubs in the Championship are losing hundreds of thousands of pounds every week and every month. And it's one of the biggest leagues in the world, let's face it, but it's not in use in the Championship. It seems very counterintuitive to me that VAR will be used in some rounds of the FA Cup and then not in other rounds of the FA Cup where the football stadiums can allow it. I just think it's bizarre, and the implementation, it needs working on.
I think we kind of touched on something pretty important earlier, which was that ultimately this referee who's considered to be elite and is of the top of his game, although that's entirely up for debate with this guy, but these are supposed to be the best that we've got, right? But he isn't the final boss here. It's the fella in the VAR room who's never refereed in the Premier League, who effectively is refereeing the game when it comes to the big decisions, and that's wrong. And I know there's been calls in the past from, I think from the PFA and from within the game to have like ex-professional footballers and managers and things like that involved in VAR, because you have an entirely different perspective on football when you've experienced it as a player or as a manager. And like, I don't know what the answer is, but we've spent 40 odd minutes talking about VAR and not the game. And that's a sad thing. And we won't be the only set of fans doing this, I'm sure. I mean, you can only imagine what Burnley fans feel like today. I put TalkSport on after the matches yesterday, and it was just caller after caller ringing up, just absolutely furious. If you felt like anything was being done about it, you would be reassured. But unfortunately, I know that when we play Leeds on Tuesday, that we're probably going to have the similar types of conversations during the game. Maybe not as many times as in this one, but we are going to probably have the same conversations, and then it'll be the same against Brighton and the same against whoever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to keep coming and coming. And yeah, I would like to think that something will be done about it. Look, we're going to probably get another apology from the PGMOL. It's going to make zero difference. We're all frustrated by more inept officiating. I do want to move slightly along, by the way, because final point. Go on.
Just to bring us back shortly, you mentioned there having an ex-player or an ex-manager involved, and I agree we need that expertise because I think you do need people who have played the game involved. But do you think that opens another Pandora's box in terms of the way fans view that? Because all of these players and managers have different allegiances, and you'd have to have a big bank of players and managers to appoint somebody to a Sunderland Bournemouth game that didn't have some sort of small connection to either club. Do you understand what I'm saying in terms of
I get that. Yeah.
Even with the pundits on TV, it's, you know, once you've decided that pundit doesn't like you or played for Middlesbrough one day or something, like that's it. The opinion sort of discounted. So whilst I agree that does need implementing in some way, there needs to be some sort of consultation. I just wonder how hard that would be to do in practice, like appointing an ex-player to a Premier League game, and how the allegiances would work out, and fans taking a dim view of certain things. I agree something needs to be done. I don't know how you implement that, which is another big challenge, I think.
On that, just to chuck this one in, as I said earlier, Michael Owen was on the coverage I watched, and while he said there was definitely a penalty on Lefay, he said the Adams tackle wasn't even a yellow card. So to have ex-players watching it, I'm not sure that would guarantee any improvement.
Well, yeah. I did say I want to move along slightly. We will just touch on, because we've got quite a bit here, but we'll touch on some of the other key points in the game. Maybe help us end off on a positive, because all I've done there is reopen wounds from yesterday afternoon. Mayenda gets a goal. That's good news, Martin, isn't it? He's took his chance, I think. I actually thought he played brilliantly, Mayenda. Wasn't just the goal. He was involved loads. He was direct. He won us loads of fouls. I think he had a really, really good game, and because that was a big call from the manager, wasn't it, to put him in ahead of Isidore, because Isidore's the more experienced player, obviously already got goals in the Premier League. Mayenda hadn't scored since the opening day, so it was a big, big call to play him, but I think he justified his selection with his performance. He was great.
Yeah, look, as I said at the top of the programme, I think this performance was really, really good, so I think it is important that we do spend some time talking about it. I did think he'd choose Isidore, and the reason I had an inkling about that was because the club had pushed Isidore on social media, like ready for the weekend, all this sort of stuff, and I thought that's a bit of a sign that he's going to get the nod. I would have preferred Mayenda to play, and I thought he did great. And I think there's probably some long-term thinking with this as well. You know, I don't think anybody would be surprised if Isidore left the club in the summer. There's been rumours all over January, wasn't there, about him departing, and his body language hasn't been too good. Mayenda's got a ton of potential. I think he could be a serious quality player, couldn't he? So for him to come in, get some game time, and the reality is he'll probably be needed to start for the next 3 or 4 games with probably being injured. So for him to get a goal, you know, strikers need that, don't they? They need to get that sort of stuff. And it was the sort of goal we haven't scored this season. Just that scrappy in the right place at the right time.
Coach's goal. Yeah.
Oh, it really was. And it was actually a really good move, because we kind of dragged Bournemouth across the pitch, and we dragged their left centre half right across the right back place, and then played the ball back over there. The ball in from Ballard to Diarra's beautiful. Diarra has an effort on goal, which I think that's something that he's really added to the team since he's come back, those runs into the box and the ability to get a strike on goal. I think the goalkeeper was a bit dodgy on it, but Mayenda's in the right place. He's following in, and there's a great goal and an even better celebration.
Yeah, it's just on the keeper as well. They signed him ahead of us, didn't they? So
we
could have ended up with him instead of Roofs. Yeah. I think he's been a bit dodgy all season. I don't think he's been particularly convincing. But yeah, James, quickly on Mayenda, I think that's what you want to see, isn't it? When, like, I was writing during the week saying there's going to be a lot of players missing, but that presents others with opportunities, and now it's about taking them chances, because I've just felt sometimes that when players have got injured and others have stepped in this season, there hasn't really been people coming in and taking the chance. Like, it's felt like, oh, well, he's played, but he didn't really do too much. Whereas with Mayenda, that's exactly what you want to see, isn't it? And he's 20-year-old. You forget that, because he feels like he's been around forever, but he's 20-year-old. So scoring goals in the Premier League at 20-year-old, there's not many players doing that. So it was just good to see him basically stake his claim for Tuesday night.
Yeah, really pleasing. As you mentioned, he's a young player. He was in the team at the start of the season, hadn't scored since that opening day against West Ham. So with Robbie being out, somebody needs to step up, and I'm glad Mayenda's done it. He's got the raw attributes to be fantastic. I thought, interestingly, Martin sort of stolen me thunder a little bit on this because I've written a bit about it for the Echo website, but I thought that decision to go with Mayenda over Wilson Isidore was really, really telling, and it just goes to show how quickly things can change to football, because he had 4 goals by October, and you're looking at him as a £25 million player in January, such with the valuations. But I think he's really struggled, Wilson Isidore, and I think that's a big transfer question in the summer that's going to arise. Do they stick with Wilson Isidore, or do they sell him and twist? I suspect at the moment they're going to twist. But the thing is with football is that it seems to change month by month, and who's to sort of bet against him having a say in Sunderland's season. But I thought that decision for Lebris to go with Mayenda over Wilson Isidore was really interesting. You cast your mind back to that chance he had against Liverpool to give Sunderland the first win at Anfield in a generation, practically. There was another one against Manchester City, albeit in a game Sunderland lost heavily. So moments like that tend to stick in the minds of managers, and Lebris is big on trust, isn't he? And I just feel like Wilson Isidore's confidence has taken a bit of a hammering, and he only came on in the game against Bournemouth, I think it was 96th or 97th minute. Obviously started against Oxford in the FA Cup, but he struggled to sort of implement his game. His confidence doesn't look quite there. He looked a bit miffed when Habib Diarra took the penalty. I just think you need a bit of luck as well. And, you know, for all Wilson Isidore's been on the pitch since October, he would have killed for one of those chances that has been presented to Mayenda on a plate. Obviously, he has to be in the right position. But if Wilson Isidore's on the pitch, he's probably backing himself to be in the right position. But Mayenda's had that little bit of luck. He's got the goal, and now it's his shirt to lose until Robbie comes back. And it's just such small, fine margins in football. You can go from hero to zero. Who would bet against him becoming hero again by the end of the season? You don't know how it's going to go. But at the moment, it feels like his Sunderland career could just be petering out a little bit, which is a big shame, I think, for a player that we all like. He's given us some great moments, a great personality, great figure to have around the club, really took Sunderland to his heart. But judged on his performances, judged on Mayenda's performances, can't argue with Lebris's logic, can you?
That's it, yeah. Other good performers, Martin, I thought the back four played pretty well, but in particular, Ballard and Alderete were excellent. Like, they were the reason we got a point in the end, because there were probably, from thinking back, probably 2 big spells in the game where Bournemouth were really on top of us and putting pressure on. And it was because of them 2 in particular, where the reason why we didn't concede, like putting their bodies on the line, just diving in front of everything. I know Ballard's had a lot of praise this season, and rightly so, but I feel like some people have not soured, probably not the word, but maybe like he's not as popular as he was at the start of the season, largely because of non-defensive reasons, like because his passing can sometimes be a bit wayward or whatever. But Alderete, to me, is he's one of the best defenders I've seen at Sunderland in the Premier League in terms of pure raw defending, just winning balls, putting his body in the way. Like, him and Ballard are so perfectly matched as a pair, I think. I really enjoyed their performance.
Can I just say that Joe Cole trying to pronounce Alderete's name in the build-up was absolutely hilarious.
I wrote it down. I actually wrote it down. It was Alderete.
It's really not hard a name to say. I could understand it if it was a hard name to say, but it's not.
Yeah, maybe we need to get him on our pod, because we're famous for being able to pronounce things correctly, aren't we, Martin? But yeah, those two were brilliant.
Well, they were, and I think they've had little ups and downs, haven't they? But in the main, they've been exceptionally good this season. But I thought the whole back four did really well. I think Gertrude looked good at right back as well, which I think it's important to mention, because that's probably the first time he's really been played at right back, which we kind of led to believe is his position. So it was nice to see him there. I thought he did a good job.
He's there for his country, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I thought Trey Hume did a good job up against a very difficult opponent at left back as well. So I thought as a unit they did well. But I actually think Xhaka coming back into the team enabled that.
Yes,
because I just think when you watch him, he's so important to how we set up and to why we've been good at the things we've been good at this season. And it's that organisation, that solidity, keeping everybody in, because it's hard to defend if you've got free runners coming at you. Whereas if Xhaka's in front of you and he's keeping a hold of Siddiqui and Diarra and Lafay and whoever else is around him, ensuring people are marked and all that sort of stuff, it makes the defender's job a bit easier. The balls are coming in from a different angle, maybe from a little bit deeper, or there's maybe just a bit more coverage defensively to enable Ballard and Alderete to do the job. But I thought they were great, and I think they actually got confidence from Xhaka being back in the team and having. I know Xhaka doesn't play right in front of them, but he does screen them a bit, and I think they got confidence. And whether it's it's real or it's just that subconscious thing of knowing Xhaka's back inside, and we can go and attack this ball, and we can go and do this, that, and the other. But they were up against difficult opponents as well, and I thought they did fantastically well. But I actually think the whole team did well. I think Lafay going back out on the left, I thought added something to the game that we've missed. I think he's going to be even better in that position with a left-footed fullback who can actually get overlapped and get down the byline ahead of him. Diarra and Siddiqui and Xhaka, which was obviously the midfield that we intended to play, the midfield three that we intended to play for the majority of the season, worked really well together. So, while we have got a few players out, it's actually the bench that looks a bit weaker. The option for change has been taken away to some extent, hasn't it? But the actual lineup that we had, I thought was great. I think the only one who you might question was Talby. I thought, he sometimes struggles out in the right wing, and I don't think he did himself a great deal of favours yesterday. I think there was a stat where he'd had 24 passes and he'd lost 12 of them or something. He'd only retained the ball 50% of the time. So he was giving the ball away cheaply on occasion and struggled to get down the line. But, I thought overall, it was a really good display. At a difficult place to go to. And, again, I think if you take the whole refereeing debacle out of it, it's a really good result, a really good performance. And I think it's so important that we focus on that now we've vented and got everything off our chests, because it shouldn't be overshadowed by the referee.
Just on Dan Ballard, I thought his pass into Diarra for the goal was absolutely
beautiful, wasn't it?
And I think that's a really underestimated facet of his game, which is improved leaps and bounds since the Premier League. I mean, you look at Dan Ballard, if you were just to meet him tomorrow for the first time, you would not say this is a ball-playing centre-back who's decent with his feet, but he absolutely is, and I think his improvement, I would liken it actually to the first time I saw Luke O'Nien to what he is now. Like, he was not that good with his feet when he first came to the club. He's developed it so much where he's competent and can start attacks with it, and he can bring the ball out, which you wouldn't necessarily expect for a man of his size. I think he's developing into an all-time Premier League great Sunderland centre-back at the moment. The moments he produces, how steady and dependable he is. I don't want to jinx it, but he appears to have gotten over the injury issues which really bothered him during his first little period at Sunderland. I think he's going to go down as a bit of an iconic player, really. Obviously, we don't know how his Sunderland career will end, but I think he's still young as well. Obviously loves the club. He's one of my favourite Sunderland players from this era, of which, admittedly, there are a few because it's been quite a good era. But I just think we often talk about Dan Ballard's moments defending set pieces, attacking set pieces, scoring goals. His attacking instincts are actually really, really good. But with the ball at his feet, I would argue he's better than Alderete. I think at the moment, he's probably one of the best ball-playing centre-backs we've had. I think he's that good.
Yeah, and I did say at the start we might touch on Leeds, but we barely had time really. But I guess all of this, it does set us up nicely, Martin, for Leeds. And I think actually maybe the fact that we're talking lots about VAR and referees and things has kind of took a little bit of pressure off the team to an extent. I think maybe we can head into this one pretty happy with how we played, assured that it certainly wasn't the team's fault we didn't win the game. I think if we had a bit more help from officiating, we possibly would have. Xhaka's back, you mentioned before. I think you're definitely right when you talk about particularly Lafay and Siddiqui. Just they looked so much more comfortable with Xhaka in there. So did the centre halves. I just think that all bodes pretty well going to Leeds. I know people are going to be looking at Leeds and thinking, well, the Elland Road under the lights, it's like a bit daunting, and they have got a good record at home. But we're not talking about Real Madrid here. We're talking about Leeds. They're a good team and they are good at home. But we shouldn't be daunted by that. And I genuinely don't think we will be. I think we've came up against them enough times in recent years. The players are familiar with Elland Road. They're familiar with the team we're playing against, the fan base, and all these sort of things. I don't see us going there and shitting the bed. I see us being really up for this one, actually. And I just think this was, I wanted to win. Obviously, we always want to win. But I think this was exactly what we needed after 3 defeats, was just a resilient performance, one where we looked a bit more ourselves. And I do think, we'll be a lot better off going into that Leeds game as a result.
Yeah, it absolutely shouldn't scare anybody going to Elland Road at all. We're talking about going away to a team that, I think most neutral observers would probably say we're on par with each other, really, in terms of the performances this season, in terms of how we've played. And obviously, they're at home. They've been strong at home. But they've had a big, tough game yesterday against Man City. We're coming in to this game with I think we'll have a bit of, well, anger's not the right word, but a bit of frustration that we'll want to make right after Saturday. And I think we'll have the confidence again that, with Xhaka back and turning good performance, we can take our confidence to Elland Road. But we'll have that little bit between our teeth where we feel harshly done to at the weekend. And if we can use that in the right way, which I'm sure Xhaka and everybody else will help the team to do, there's absolutely no reason why we can't go to Elland Road and get something. And look, if you'd said to me before the Bournemouth game, if we can get a point down at Bournemouth and a point at Elland Road, I would snap your hands off, say, great, let's take those two, and then get back to the stadium like a week on Saturday for Brighton. So there's absolutely nothing to be scared of. I think the biggest thing is going to be how the players recover from that trip, because it's a pretty long trip. The early kickoff might favour us in some respects in terms of recovery, because we'd be able to get back up to the northeast in better time than it would have been with a 3 or 5:30 p.m. kickoff, wouldn't it? But, just keep our fingers crossed that Xhaka is okay. I think Lebris said after the game he was, but hopefully he pulls up after that sort of 75 minutes of return to action. There's no other injuries, hopefully. And, it's likely going to be the same players asked to go again. You maybe think Traore might come in, depending on his fitness, but the reality is the vast majority of those players who started yesterday are going to need to start against Leeds on Saturday. On Tuesday. So it's going to be a good game, but look, it's a brilliant game, and the team will be looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And it's a great opportunity against a team who were in the Championship last season with us to get some more points on the board.
I feel like we owe them one after last season as well with the 2 late
goals.
We do, don't we? And if Mike Dodds' Sunderland can get a point away at Elland Road, then I reckon Regis Lebris' Sunderland in the Premier League can.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that's the case. We will be back tomorrow, hopefully with our opposition preview pod with Conor McGilligan, the Leeds YouTuber who we had on earlier in the season. Great crack as always on that occasion, so should be good crack again tomorrow. So join us for that, and we'll have the match day preview on Tuesday. Games are coming thick and fast, and so are the pods. Make sure you head over to rotoreport.sbnation.com for your content around the match as well. And of course, today, James, everyone can head to the Echo's website, presumably, and see what you've had to say and what Phil and Jason have had to say about the performance at the weekend too.
Loads of stuff over on the Sunderland Echo website. We're also big into our video content on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of that sort of stuff. Also recording semi-regularly with Conor Bromley at the moment as well. So check that out over on his channel. So yeah, boatloads of stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, chaps. Been lovely just venting about VAR. I did say I was like calm, and then I just, yeah, that I wasn't.
You're going to need to go.
It's like a therapy
for another walk.
Yes, I'm going to go for another walk and just boil my head, I think. But yes, thank you very much, lads. Thanks for that. Thanks to the listeners. Like I say, we'll be back in the morning with another pod, so make sure you grab that one, and we'll see you then.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.